So I realised we've probably not done much of a catch-up in a while. So I think the last one I did was after the disappointment of the last round. But I'm over that and we're on to prepping for 2026. So just a quick update really. This is almost ready to start. It just doesn't want to. I think it needs a crank position sensor because it's gone dodgy. That one, I'm not sure if you can see it, needs engine out of. I've got a TRX frame to weld up and re-sleeve the pivot bolt for the swing arm. And a bit of a tidy up. As a consistent theme with any other garage video, needs tidying up. So, I'll show you this to start with. It just doesn't want to start. So, turns on, primes, lovely. It's got spark, it's got fuel, it's got air. It's just not been allowed to start. I am getting the error code 636/2, which in Polaris terms means crank position sensor's faulty. I'll put some pictures in, but when I took the front water cover off where the crank position sensor sits, it was all rusted over on the flywheel where it takes its magnetic signal from. And the end of the sensor was rusted over as well. I've cleaned it all off, hoping it'd work, but it hasn't. So I have ordered another sensor, but I'm going to swap one off of that engine because I know it works and test if it's that. Because if not, it could be the loom or it could be something else. I've already swapped the ECU and I had the same issue, but I'm tempted to swap it back again now after I've cleaned them. So that's that. But I'm at a stalling point with that until I can get a crank position sensor off the other one. So all this mess here, I'll be tidying up. And what's just behind you there, I will then tidy up, shift this bike that way, that one into here, and that one around the corner. Because I have got room for, could probably fit about 4 bikes in here, but not to work on. It's all a bit too cramped at times. On other news, I've been playing with my plastic 3D printer and I've made this. Looked quite bulky, it's got to be refined a bit, yeah. That was the first version with the bolts sticking out the back and on the front, whereas now I've sank them in. But I just need to round off a few corners and I could probably knock about 4mm off edge to edge. And this is going to be for my new starting setup. 2 buttons to start it. And just listen to that lovely click sound. That means it's definitely going to make a contact. Whereas these other ones I've been using, like on that bike, the ones with the big red button, I was playing with them on the electronics board I've got, and they don't make a solid contact. You've got to sort of wiggle the button about. Now, any starting issues you've seen that I've had, round 2 especially, started it and it stalls. I'm the only man on the world in this planet that can stall an automatic somehow. It starts, hit the power, stalls. So I want a cleaner, crisp start button, so I'm not having to find the contact in the button. So that's what those are for. Chris Willett from the US recommended the buttons to me, and it's a thank you very much to him because they are brilliant buttons. Nice, really nice. But I'm also extending, well, I'm modifying the actual start circuit to fit differently due to I want to eliminate one of the... Well, actually, I want to add something. I want to add a step between them. I'll describe it in another video. It's a bit complicated to get into right now. But for now, I'll get on with this and tidy up. I've also got the triple fan setup that's nearly ready. Just need to actually make the mounting plate for it. So I shall crack on now. Right then, so try to get this out this morning. I've got a couple of hours. Shouldn't take me that long. Should probably take me an hour. Getting it out is the easy bit. Need to get it out, and then little crank position sensor here at the front. Get that off and onto that engine. This engine needs to come out anyway. Otherwise, I could just take the fuel tank out and get the crank position sensor. To be honest, I could probably get the crank position sensor where it is, but it would take me 20 minutes to do that, whereas it'd probably take me 20 minutes to take the fuel tank out and then do it. So might as well kill two birds with one stone and actually get the fuel tank out as well. So that's on the plan. And then once that's happened, I can get my other engine into this machine. Well, once it's out, I'm going to clean it off, check the frame over and everything like that. Do all my maintenance I need to do on the actual frame and running gear. And then I put that engine in. Probably have to swap the clutches over as well, because I want to have the same this clutching setup in there. And a fresh Ultimax belt, obviously. Just tart some bits of rust up and just clean it all off. Make it look something proper for next year. Because between this and my pink machine, Polly, they'll be running the main bits of the British Championship next year. So I'm going to have a third one, which will be not that one because that's getting sold. Another one I'll be building up, but that'll be into a rolling frame until I can sort this engine out. But obviously getting bikes up and running first is the main priority. So I'll crack on with this now. I'll film different angles and everything and be able to see how I do it and how I take it out. If you can see this blue thing behind me, that is how I take engines out. It's called a Genie Lift. It's used in warehousing and things such as. I use that, an old pickaxe handle and two straps. And you'll see that in a minute. And I lift the full engine and gearbox out together. I don't mount them in the frame because that's, to me, a pain in the ass. So that's what I'll be doing. I'll be showing you that. So that's the header pipe off to start with. And we're just going to go on with these exhaust blanks. You don't specifically need to do this, but to me it's just nice. It stops anything getting inside there that you don't really want. I do it with all the engines when I take them out, or whether I take the intake off or the exhaust. I always put the block offs on. I've got the front and rear block intake and exhaust block offs. And they can be bought if you'd like them. I use them even when over winter, if you're overhauling your machine and you want to take your engine out whilst you're doing things to your frame and all sorts. You just want to take your intake off. Really handy to have. There's plastic, and then we bond a bit of foam to the back of them and trim it. That way it gives it a nice seal. So that is how we do things. And the extra couple of seconds it takes to put these on, it's worth it. It's a nice sealed package at the end of the day, isn't it then? So next to come off will be the intake. I had to take the gear lever linkage off to get the back bolt out for these. So I'll take the intake off next. The rough plan will be intake, fuel tank, prop shaft, and then I will do the top bar, the access bar, rear prop shaft, engine mount, and it can probably come out at that. Sorry, radiator hose. I'll have to take the radiator hose off, top and bottom. I think that is about it. And obviously, when I say take the engine out, I need to disconnect all the wiring loom from the engine. But that is predominantly it. You can come out at that. And one final bit of this is a coil pack that needs to come off as well. So I'll crack on with that now. So that'll be, I can pull these off. 1, 2, the intake's off. There's always one bit I forget to do, and it's the bloody wiring. It's the intake off. So if you don't know what happened with this engine, we had an oil filter failure of some sort. That's what I've yet to dig into. On the last round, which buggered my championship, but oh well. So that's the intake off, and I'm getting this engine out and I'll be opening it up and having a look at it. Again, like I said, intake block offs. So this will go on the, before we do that, bit of good practice. Scoop out anything that's dropped in there, and again open it up and just make sure nothing gets in. Make it clean, seal it clean, and then it'll stay clean, won't it? That's the left hand side, and the right. I also have these block off kits for on top of the throttle body, like you see me doing now. So these go on top. But then I also have them which mount directly to the engine, which are these. Like I say, foam at the back, squeeze on, make a nice seal. So they go underneath the throttle body. So if you want to take the throttle body off and still seal your engine, those go underneath, which is good. Just snug them up, get a seal on there, and it soon comes apart, which is nice. But the painful bit is when you go to put it back together, it never goes back together nice. I always like taking stuff apart, but putting it back together is a pain. So, like I say, that's that done. Now, what I do with my bolts is, where possible, I put them back in the holes. So, like there, just a couple threads deep, and again for there. Obviously, I already had bolts pre-mounted in these block-off plates, so those 4 I'll put in a little bag and put inside the airbox. Again, with the gear linkage, I'll put the bolt back through. You don't lose them then, so these will get put into a little bag. You can find one. Bag of little bags. It's not the littlest bag, but for 4 bolts, but that'll go just tucked in there. So like I say, intake off. Next will be fuel tank, but before I do that, probably just scoop a bit of debris out from under here first. Because I've washed this bike twice, believe it or not. It's been washed twice. I will say one thing about the Polaris, it does just harbour dirt like a fugitive. So yeah, engine's gone seized, we believe. I think that's the most likely one. It'll be seized. It's funny because all the Can-Am lot in the UK will be saying, "Oh, you wouldn't have that problem with the Can-Am." It's funny because I know 2 of them have replaced engines this year alone. So, oh well, one, I think they've both moved to new bikes because their engines were on the way out. So it's quite funny. But it's all in good spirit. They like to poke a bit of fun, and so do we. So I'll be racing in the same class as the majority of them next year. And it'll be a year of getting my ass kicked for the first year. But it's what you've got to do. You've got to get your ass kicked so you can learn. So I'll be back onto fuel tank next, which I'll try and get a better angle of. And just like that, the fuel tank's out. So, making good progress. Yeah, so front and rear drive shafts now. Just get some bits out of the way to start with. Just pull them up and out. These are the idle air tubes that go to the throttle bodies when they're closed. I'll take the, might as well have that top bar off now actually. I'll take that off. Take that off in a one go. The only thing I need to do first is disconnect these coil lines, which need that for. So again, bolt out and then straight back in. Yes, I know you've got to remove them again to install, but at least you know where they are. You don't lose them. But, trust the old impact. See if she works. Oh, she does. She does indeed. Lovely stuff. Alrighty then. That's that done. Put it on the floor for a second. That as well. Again, bolt straight back in. So I don't know how long we've been going now. But we are, what, 4 components, or 4 key components. Well, to remove, there's the front prop shaft, rear prop shaft. Got to drain the radiator and remove the wiring harness. You don't have to fully remove it, you've got to unplug it from the engine and gearbox. So a couple of major changes I want to make for this year coming are the brakes. So we've got better on the brakes every year, however they're just not right. I can't seem to get the wheels to lock, which when you're grabbing a fistful of brakes, them wheels should be locking every time. But for me they are not, which is not helpful. I'm not confidence inspiring. I'm going to try some new tyres this year. Just waiting for an agreement to come through with a tyre supplier. But I want to try the mud lights, which I've ran before, and they're a nice tyre. However, they just seem really light, and you think, are they gonna puncture very easily? But they might not do, and that's the key point. They might not. Why can I not find neutral? Didn't think you had these problems on a bloody automatic, but obviously I do. Don't that so? There we are. That should do us. Should do us nicely. So I get this. So the prop shaft here as well. If you're working on a normal Polaris Scrambler, you will have a pin that goes through, a roll pin. I don't like the roll pin. I think the roll pin is shit for serviceability. So it rusts in there because of the sort of stuff you use these machines for. It gets stuck in there, it rusts, it does all sorts. So it's just not very good for it. However, if you're like me, you'll have taken an M8 bolt and cut it down to size, lovely, and installed a nut on the other end. So I nut this thing, and because of that I can unbolt it and tap it out with a hammer nice and easy. It doesn't rust in there and it keeps it tight. It means you can keep it going, whereas if a pin goes loose it falls out, doesn't it? Which you never see until it's too late. Although I have made this pin, I've made this bolt really tight. So this is the J-Parts prop shaft I run on this. I've only got one of them and I run it on this bike. It was on Poly before, the pink bike, which is a full J-Parts bike, full J-Parts frame, everything. However, J adds 2 strengthening tubes at the front here on the just before the front diff, which are really nice. However, because the head on the CV prop shaft that he sells is bigger, the only way I could get it on and off was by unbolting the front diff and shifting it slightly to the left to be able to clear these 2 front tubes. Now, that to me is not very serviceable. And to be honest, I have the engines out of these things probably more than I should. It's coming out in the mid-season, it's definitely more than it should be. However, it happens, so I can't help that. So I swapped onto this bike, which doesn't have those strengthening tubes there, and it is still chuffing tight. There we go. Yeah, it's a really good design having CVs on it. Prop shaft, I agree with it. I agree strongly with it. However, if this was about 3mm shorter, it'd be lovely. It just doesn't want to come on and off. But if it fails, then you're on for a winner there, because it's not going to come off. So that's the front prop shaft off, top bar off. And also for the J-Parts prop shaft, can't run a normal nylock or a normal nut because there isn't enough room, it catches. So I use a top hat nut, which is an Allen on that end. I'm sure, can't remember the actual name for it, it's not a top hat nut, but I use an Allen socket cap, M8, and then screw it into that top hat nut. When it's all the way screwed in, it clears your A-arm tabs, where your front arms mount, by I think 4mm. So it's enough for me. But that's that done. Get the rear one now. Like I say, doing them's not that bad. So taking them apart, everything else is terrible. See what I can do here then. I'm going to put my tunes back on for this one. Taking the rear prop shaft off is extremely simple. Undo the 4 bolts, pull it back, drop it to the side, pull it backwards, job done. So I'll put my music back on and time lapse this bit. So as you can see, I've just removed the rear prop shaft, which is there. And you can see on my frame, this is the key area of differences here. So we've welded in this cross strut here, which clears the rear prop shaft and allows the engine still to come in and out. We've also, from there to in front of the foot peg here, the tube has been replaced with it's either 4, 5 or 6mm wall tube, extremely heavy duty. We also replaced this as well, gusset, and then a cross gusset as well, just to distribute all the force from this here. Because if you're on a Polaris Scrambler, you will know if you ride it hard, it breaks here constantly. That little foot that comes down here breaks, snaps. That's the one area, key area of weakness on this frame is there. But yes, it cracks in other places, like on top of the seat here, underneath the seat, and under there as well, where the seat goes. However, that's nothing detrimental structurally compared to that. If that goes, your frame is essentially split in half. That's key area weakness, and when that goes, then it causes everywhere else to wear because everything's out of line. There's only so much that this U-joint can take up in slack. If you keep riding with it, it'll eventually bend out of position and break, which is even worse. So either way, that's that done. Now I'll be doing the coil pack next, which is that. Wiring loom, 4 engine bolts, and then I can lift her out. So I'll do that and then I'll show you the lifting process. So we're nearly done now. I've literally got the 4 engine bolts to get off. This wiring will get caught and snag and things like that, but I'll just have to be gentle and pull it out of the way when I get a chance. Yeah, just a couple more cable ties to cut as well. But then yeah, I'll show you how I lift it out, which is the exciting bit. So I've been asked a fair few times that's how I get my engines out, but shall see, which is exciting. It's not really that exciting, but right then, so that's that. I'll get these bolts out and we can be on the road. Yeah, just 15mm nuts. Some I have to use a spanner for, some I can get in with a socket, but some spanner. Right, so the engine is disconnected now and ready to be lifted out. So now what I do is use these straps. Couldn't tell you what these straps are, they're my dad's. He's had them for years. Just like everything. Good set of tools, never does you wrong. So I need that out because that's what the engine will be going on. What I do now is I feed one strap under this mating part between the gearbox and the engine, up and round, under the frame rail and under anything you don't want to be taken with it, on top of the gearbox shaft. So you're not taking that either, you're not lifting on it and putting any pressure. I clip it together, put it out of the way, and then second one here, I always like to have the two end. For some reason these straps split like that. I like to have the double pieces clipped, and they're not running them up. They're not running off and getting in the way. So again, single piece here underneath the water pump gap. You'll see it up and round. Again, under anything you don't want to take with you. So the only thing I need to do here is disconnect this high pressure fuel line because it's in my way. I often go under that to make sure I'm not going to bend the spout on it. I've realised one thing I haven't done, haven't disconnected the radiator. Well, that is not that big of a deal at this moment in time. I can wait. So again, under anything you don't want to be taken with. Spin that clip round. Hook her on there. Okay then. Again, old pitchfork, old pickaxe handle through there, through there. Spread them out nice and evenly. Ensure that that front strap is always under the water pump gap. The other one at the back can't go anywhere because it's in such a high groove. Right, I'll get back to you now when I've done the coolant. That's next on my list. And then I'll show you how I've actually routed these straps. Right then, so this is now ready for lifting. Got the radiator drained off, I've got the pipes disconnected. So as you can see, just let me alter this up 2 seconds. We are connected on top. You go through there, make sure you go over the top of that. Over everything there, but under the frame, remember? Under the frame, under that, round, and back through and under this channel here. So those will sit in that channel under tension. Right, I'll wheel the genie in and we'll get it going up. So I'll just set you back up. Get a decentish angle. You can also do this by hand. I have done it by hand, by myself. It's a lot easier with 2 people, but I have done it by hand by myself. And yes, I do want a medal for that. So, we are in. Go in it. Turn these bars back a bit. You want it probably as close to the back as possible here. Let it down a bit. And then we go up, up. And make sure to keep the straps on the inside so they can't slip off to the outside. That's as far as we're getting in there, so push that there. Now this does involve a fair bit of, well, sometimes, I say it involves a fair bit, sometimes it can come straight out, other times it just doesn't want to play ball. So I use a tire lever or a crowbar, but I can't find the crowbar at the moment. So we're out of all the slots. Get that back in. And that as far over as I can. Just needs to come up a bit more. Need to actually get some tension. So you got to be careful because you can't crack them casings on them plastic casings on the back. But it's normally just out and pull a bit, out and pull a bit, just bit by bit, and then I lift the water pump up and onto the frame like that. lift, and then work it up a bit at a time. The back end, you've sort of got to swing one side out first, which I try and get the front out first, but you can't be too picky sometimes. Just like that. And then up. Now let's see what's still attached, because something's still catching and dragging. This, a regulator. That. And then we're about to show you job done. Out with back come. So I'm going to steer it round that back wheel. I'll tell you something, boys and girls. I've got to say that's probably one of the easiest ones I've had. Let's just drain that bit of coolant into there. Do normally like to wedge those up in there so they don't leak coolant everywhere. And I try not to keep her up in the air too much. But now we're clear. Let it down. I'll tell you something, I hope you've got all that. Yeah. And then I put it onto a trolley. So what I'll do is I'll lower her down to start with. It's nice and steady. Right, now I will turn, if I can get it to go. Yeah, I would have normally turned the other way, from a trolley the other way, but just for the interest of getting you to get a good shot of it. Put that there. And this is just literally 2 pieces of plywood bolted together with some casters on. So now at this point, out the way, wiggle, wiggle. In fact, let me tweak it up a touch. It's always easier that way. Nice wide stance, like a sumo deadlift. Wiggle, wiggle, drop. I know you didn't really see much of that, but there we go. Set that out the way, job done. One engine out. I reckon that's taken me, I'm going to say about an hour and a half, maybe 2. That's leisurely taking my time. But yeah, let's unclip you out of here. So this, I'll readjust it because it's a bit on the wonk at the moment, it's a bit wonky. So on there, so on that. Unlock that caster, so it'll move now. Here we are. All this shit under here. That's what I mean. Just want it clearing out. Clean it off. Get it ready for next year. Inspect the frame, paint it over again. Probably do a couple of coats this year. Job done. But for me now, well, not job done. I'm going to get that crank position sensor off there. That's my next port call. I know that one works. And then onto that. So yeah, well, thank you for watching. I'm just going to leave it there at that. I'll be editing it down, so there's loads of time lapses of the boring bits. But anything where I'm talking in it, I'll leave in. So enjoy. Thank you for watching.